Shadrach Agaki. I'm a communication expert in food system and climate change. I think the reason why you were seeing a screen, and because we are talking about digital information and misinformation, we have something on the screen, and I just want to say something about it. It's a climate clock, and the panelists, I think the panelists from the World Food Program said something about climate change, and I want to say something about climate change and how we link this to the communication and miscommunication of food security and food safety issues.
All right, thank you. All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Abende. I'm currently serving as the Production and Quality Assurance Manager at Burton and Bamber Company Limited. I'm a food scientist by profession and training, and I'm honored to be here to discuss the topic about communication and digital platform. Being a young person, I think this particular era is very interesting, with a lot of increase in social media engagement, digital platforms, apps everywhere. And so the key thing that I think we'll be tackling today is really, how do you decipher what is accurate, what is truthful information? Pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Jacinta Mwende. I'm the Senior Departmental Head in Quality Assurance in Monte, Kenya Limited. I am a food scientist by profession. I've worked with several industries, starting my career right from pharmaceutical as a quality control analyst, headed to packaging material, the PET, and meat company. And here I am in fruit and beverage technology. So I'm happy to be with us today, where we are discussing African stories with Africans. We are indeed talking our stories the African way. Thank you so much. I hope and I know we will get so much in terms of communication. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to kickstart this question by asking a question to you directly. We've just seen how advancement in technology is propelling the food industry with the test that we've just seen for water. So how can these technological advancements be enhanced, especially for the food safety and nutrition communication? And how do you navigate these kinds of technology?
Thank you very much. I think you saw what was done here. But for me, I'll go back to the basics. We are talking about food hygiene and food safety. But what are those elements first that helps in terms of making our food safe? We have seen something about the tests. So how can these tests be used in the simplest way at the lowest end? So how can the government, how can the world, at the world level, how can we have these technologies being used? We have the capacity in terms of young people. You heard she say she's conversant with digital technologies. I am. And there are so many young people. In fact, majority of young people in Kenya and in Africa right now are digital literate. So they can be given this and be told this is how you can be checking. And they can, that unemployment can be created from them going and performing these activities. So I think for me that will be the best way to get the food safety issues at the lowest level by taking advantage of our young people who are digitally savvy.
Thank you, Shadrach. Molly, I have a question to you. You're young, and I love the fact that you're young, and we're going to be young. We're not going to get old.
But I have one question, especially when it comes to the digital space. So we are seeing the rise of social media, we are seeing the rise of influencer marketing, but how can we ensure that as we do these kinds of communication, we are able to educate and actually communicate the right thing? Because at this point, you're talking to also maybe a younger generation. How do you communicate the safety of the food in an ideal way that is also not as boring or as technical?
So I think in the rise of social media particularly, we are getting a very, very wide reach when it comes to content. And I believe the rise in social media influencers has been a positive thing from a marketing perspective, but from a consumer and maybe even food safety and nutrition perspective, maybe not so much, right? Because we are getting a trend in influencers being able to be paid, right, to market a particular product. So that influencer, almost whether they like it or not, they have to paint this product in a particular light. And sometimes that might lead to misinformation in the end of the social media influencer to portray the product in a particular manner that it can increase sales for a particular company who's paying them to market. And I think the challenge that this poses to consumers is that as consumers, you need to be very aware of the current trends, and these people who are called influencers, they are paid to bring in sales to that company, right? So the best way for us to be able to, number one, protect ourselves from misinformation in this particular instance of brand influencers is, as an individual and as a consumer, take personal responsibility of actually verifying the data that you see online. So take that opportunity. For example, if you see it's bio yogurt is being advertised and it's saying it gives us this nutritional benefit, go to the website of bio and you'll actually find more information about that particular product. So verification and fact checking becomes very, very important for the consumers. The other thing for the consumers, differentiate between opinion and news reporting. There's many of these brand influencers, sometimes they're not even being paid, but they're stating an opinion and stating how maybe they enjoy a particular product or what benefit is given to them. So some of these things are subjective. So do not take some of this information from social media as fact. Some of them are opinions, and we need to educate ourselves to be able to differentiate between opinion and actually news reporting. I think that is what I can say from a consumer perspective, but also from an industry perspective, being a production manager myself, I understand the importance of making sales and getting to connect with our audiences. So I'd say as companies, let us adopt integrity in general. Let us adopt integrity, that in these marketing packages, let us communicate accurate, tested information, especially when it comes to nutritional claims. And at all times, internally as companies, food safety must be maintained at all times. Thank you.
You know, I like what you've said, Molly. I think the lingo that goes around nowadays is trust but verify. Yeah?
Yes, yes, yes.
Jacinta, I'm going to come to you. You have a wealth of experience. Back to technology, how are we able to overcome some of the potential risks and challenges that are associated with some of these innovations, especially when it comes to the food sector?
Okay, when it comes to we have a lot of innovations in the food safety sector. One thing we need to be aware, educate ourselves, look for credible information. As much as we have so much information in the internet and everywhere, we need to know about the new innovations, especially in this era of information, where we can be misinformed. They can be either misinformation, disinformation, or even malinformation. What we need to really do, as my dear panelists here, Molly has said, we need to verify everything that we get, whether it's information in terms of an analysis procedure or whatever we've had, we need to really verify, do a lot of verification. I'll give an example of misinformation that really happens with our products. I'll talk about the Monte product. In most cases, you will hear, we say that there's no sugar added. But some people will really think we've added sugar. That is part of the misinformation. I would like to urge people, read the packaging, read and verify what is used. Like in this case, somebody can move with that narrative and say they don't add this, indeed they do add this. But when you look at the packaging, you'll be able to see the ingredients, and where there is sugar, it will go like something like a drink. So what falls into us, that is misinformation. When it comes to disinformation, is whereby somebody will spread negative news or false news with the knowledge that it is a false news. So this is a kind of a malicious thing that could happen, which us as industries should be also able to know how to navigate around it. There's also the malinformation, whereby somebody moves with one truth, and then like if you find a certain product has kind of a contamination, the company or people are trying to work on it, and it's something that can be worked on it. But you go, somebody goes, tries to destroy the reputation on that. So as companies, as individuals, small businesses that are startups, we need to be fully informed and check for authenticity of the information. Just recently, was it yesterday, Wikipedia woke up telling us that one of our leaders is dead, of which it wasn't true. If somebody moves with that and spreads the news, then it becomes a little bit tricky. So we need to know the technology that are coming, whether in communication, whether in analysis. We need to verify based on scientific proof and also facts.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to add something to what they have said. You know, we are talking about the digital things, and then we are not speaking about the, you know, the role of the policies that are existing to help us in terms of, you know, regulating the misinformation. So what is there? How can the members of the public get engaged? You know, there is public participation. So when these policies are being made, people need to get engaged and involved in terms of making those policies. So that as we move forward, curbing misinformation, at least the population is aware of what exactly they are into.
Actually, you have preempted the next question, because that is what I wanted you to actually tell us about when it comes to government, when it comes to policy, when it comes to other stakeholders in the market. How do we play a role when it comes to communicating food safety, and how do we collaborate to ensure that the messaging is accurate and equally understandable for a common mwananchi?
Now, I think that's what I wanted to answer, but I have, you know, you have to start anyway. So let me just give a background. I've been in government, working for government officials for the last 11 years. And I think I was in another webinar with this organization, and I was telling the organizers, they were asking me, so how can we get involved? Or how can we get the members of government act accordingly? Then I told them, it is about us, the people. You are not going to expect anything to happen until every issue that you want to address becomes a public issue. So how do we get an issue, a public issue, is by getting a critical mass talking about it. I can assure you, if we had a conversation about food safety and misinformation, you know, being discussed and conversed nationally, then you see members of parliament coming up and saying, hey, because I'm a researcher for a member of parliament, they'll say, hey, can you see if you can draft a motion talking about this? Can you see if there's a statement that can be done to ask the minister or the cabinet secretary to respond to this? So it comes back to the pressure that we can put as citizens. But for citizens to put that pressure, they need to be aware. So it also then goes back to us, those who are knowledgeable, to ensure that we are able to get to the public and, you know, try to encourage them to get involved because there is something for them in that policy which is being made for them by an individual who is a member of parliament, who is seated in parliament, making a decision for like 200, 100,000 people from a constituency. And yet, these people are expected to know that whatever the member of parliament is passing is on their best interest. So unless we are all involved and we are aware of what is supposed to happen, then meaningful public participation is required, and if it is not there, then we can expect to see this, non-involvement of the government officials continuing.
All right. Thank you so much, Shadrach, for that. You have something to add, Molly?
I do have something to add. So in terms of the role of government in actually ensuring that there is accurate and truthful information about food safety and nutrition, the government has a responsibility towards public health when it comes to its citizen. And the biggest role that the government plays is regulatory, number one, and surveillance. So government needs to establish, number one, reliable platforms that citizens can be able to quickly be able to go on to and know that here I can get reliable information about food safety and about nutrition. So you find that areas like the US, the CDC, the USDA, and also the FDA have come together and put a food safety website, for example. And for regulators, for consumers, for industry players, this is a platform that they can easily go to and find up-to-date information about what is happening and any challenges in the food safety line. I think also where our government can also invest in is when it comes to crisis communication. When it comes to recall and foodborne outbreaks, our government needs to invest in infrastructure to be able to digitally communicate with us as citizens. For example, when there is a product recall of products, for example, that are even imported, how does that person who's in the village in Turkana know that this particular Indomie that they're eating that comes all the way from a different country has a problem? So I think the government has a big role to play in terms of leveraging on the existing digital platforms to be able to increase their efficiency and capacity to communicate in times of crisis. Yeah.
I think that's a very good point to add to that. And I'm actually going to kick it back to you, Shadrach. Are we ready for these kinds of conversation? And not just us as consumers, but is the public, is the common Mwananchi ready to engage and be part of this conversation? Because you find in different instances, yes, they have addressed that this is what we're going to change in terms of policy, but then no one showed up. The public didn't show up. They did not participate. And then a motion is passed, but then it ends up hurting us at the end of the day. So is it that we do not care? Is it that we are more reactive than proactive? Or what is the disconnect when it comes to the end consumer?
Thank you very much. I think that's, the gist of the matter, because when we were coming, I was speaking to my friend, Stevens there. What is it that, why is it that, people are not getting involved? Number one is because they don't see anything that affects them. While in the opposite, when you look at it from here where we are seated, we see everything with, the policies that come up affecting them. So yesterday when I was preparing for this session, I spoke to someone from the US, and she told me, until we get to show that common man that whatever they are going to do, they are contributing, they are making a contribution, then they feel, once you're told you're making a contribution to something, then when something else comes, you will want to continue contributing. The fact that we have not been able to encourage those people who are the grassroots, telling them, at least you are doing something towards food safety. So I think, how do we start? Because I said, she was talking about the role of government. But who is government? Government is me, who is seated here, helping a member of parliament to make some decisions. But then I'm making a decision for 100,000 people. So how do I get those 100,000 people get involved? Is by telling them, First, using digital communication, now there are so many WhatsApp. If you are in a WhatsApp group, can you raise this conversation? So it is those of us who are here who knows, who jumpstart that conversation in the whatever platform that we are in, so that now people get to know that at least they are doing something, but they need either to change the way they are acting or they need to enhance their actions. I think that is how we can get the people to be involved to ensure that the policymakers act on
actually being held accountable.
Yes. So let me finish with this one because it is important. The policymakers will only act if they think the issue is so important to them and the people know that this is important to them, so that if they don't act, they are going to be sacked the next cycle of election. So I think if we finish there, then we'll have the reason to work.
Wow. Thank you so much, Shadrach. Jacinta, I'm going to come back to you. We are already in a global village almost, yeah? We're globalizing almost every other day. What are the challenges and the opportunities in communicating food safety across different cultures or across different markets?
Thank you very much. We are a global community, but we all individually have our own cultures. That is something that we cannot escape from. So in this case, when we are communicating the culture or food, or we are communicating about food safety to people, we need to know that everybody brings upon their culture. And we need, first of all, to know the kind of culture that people are in and how to navigate around it to be able to know, to reach to them. I'm taking an example if I'm speaking about maybe food safety, or I'm speaking to all the people who believe in they have certain cultures or believe in that some foods they are not supposed to eat or so. It is like I go somewhere in a community that doesn't take pork, and I'm very busy telling them about how pork is okay and how they should ensure food safety in that. One thing I'm sure that you will be out of topic when you talk about that. So to take advantage of that, you need to know the people you are talking to, know the cultures they believe in, and also the challenges that one is most likely to face is mostly is the different beliefs. Misinformation is also part of it. And also, there's a lot of information in the market. We are over-informed, so you'll find that there's a lot to choose from if you're not sure on the authentic sites or where to check. So that becomes a challenge when communicating food safety. One will not be sure what to take and what to drop. However, there's an advantage of being a global village. We can take advantage of that in putting together the cultures. We will be able to learn from others in terms of food safety. We have a lot of embracing technology. We have sites like we can look at FDA sites. We can be able to learn more. That is an advantage of cross-cultural trading in terms of food safety. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Add something.
Yes, you can.
Because when we are talking about communicating the challenges that exist, because majorly we are talking about communication, and I think that is the major part of this panel. Yeah, so number one, there are things that we need to do, like taking advantage of, the global narrative that exists. So how are you able to plug in to the narrative that exists to push the issues of food safety, the culture, and all these other things? You remember when I came here, I showed a screen of the climate clock.
Yes.
So how can we take advantage of the climate clock and then start pushing the issue of food safety and nutrition? when I was doing some bit of research, I realized that, the key element in terms of food safety and hygiene is water. So if water is going to be scarce because of climate change, then, we are not going to have food which is safe. If the climate increases the temperatures to a certain level, then it means we're not going to have our food safe for a long time because we'll need refrigerators which are not there. So how do we plug in to this global narrative and then to help us communicate the issues of food safety and nutrition? So it is upon us also to be keen as communicators, because everybody is a communicator. I say, in life, you are always doing, you are doing communication. You are either communicating about the ideas, you are communicating about the products, you are communicating about what you're doing. So we need to, learn on how to plug on the global narrative, whatever the conversation that is going on nationally, regionally, and globally, to plug in this conversation so that we can, because that's how then we can get the people engaged in it, because they will relate to the global issues that are happening.
I completely agree with you, because these narratives are happening, and if you are able to plug in the aspect of food safety to almost kill two birds with one stone, then why not? Because if we are going through drought, we are looking at the global climatic issues that we are going through, and that affects the food safety, or it affects, the food route to market, then we are in a problem. But let me ask you another question, Shadrach. How can we use behavioral science to be able to influence consumer behavior when it comes to communicating about food safety?
Thank you very much. We were not, we didn't give our background. I did sociology and communication in the University of Nairobi. And at least I got to understand something about the interaction of people and how people are socialized in a community. You see so many influencers right now, and you go home and your kid will start to sing like someone. My boy always wants to be Messi, okay? So Messi has influenced this gentleman every time, he's on his tablet. He's like, Messi, Messi, Messi. You don't want to, tell him, no, don't. So in terms of socialization, even us right now, I look at someone and what they are doing, and I want to just do like them. We are imitating every time. So the influencers, those people who are here who knows, there are so many people who follow us. So once we say, we need to reduce the amount of food that we buy, because if we are wasting food, then we are, like, let's say water, because that would be a good example. If we are using clean water, then it means we are going to have, our environment being clean, and that will protect us from, having contaminated food. So it is using those people who are key informants in the society to influence those other people, because that's how the society is structured, that people are going to learn, they are going to imitate what those people who are up there, above them are doing. So I think that's how, the influence comes up.
Yeah, I agree with what Shadrach is saying. You really have to understand the people, their attitude towards the food safety, their beliefs towards something. So if you're going to the village, you need to get an influencer from the village, or this old man or this mzee who really people trust in when they talk. With such, you can be able to push the food safety agenda up to the grassroots. Thank you.
I think just to add on the conversation around globalization and actually consumer behavior and trends, as Shadrach has spoken about the aspect of climate change now being the talk everywhere. And I think just under it, we get some communication stacking where people understand that with the impact that climate change is having, food security is next in line and how compromised we are because of that. And I think the aspect of globalization that at least has a positive light to it is that because we're a global village and we are very interconnected, is that now information dissemination has become very easy. But because of this ease of communication, because an influencer like Kim Kardashian, when she's in the US, is able to say, I eat my salad in the morning, and she shakes her vegetable salad 6 or 3 times, a young person in Kenya is also thinking, maybe I should try this. So we are getting that because of globalization and because of the awareness of the non-communicable diseases, the aspect of climate change, the diseases that are currently there, many consumers now are beginning to be more aware of their health and nutrition. And this might have not been possible if not for globalization, actually. So the aspects of people being able to be nutritionally conscious, to be health conscious, now people are able to check their labels a bit more compared to older days, because somebody in a different culture, in a different context, checks their label and checks their calories. You find someone in Kenya will also do the same thing. So we get that the aspect of globalization and consumer behavior and having the aspect of influencers can be a positive thing in the community, whereby when we get those positive influencers taking us through nutrition aspect and how we can take care of our health, the common mananchi follows suit.
I absolutely agree with you. Then please tell us maybe what are the different strategies or different ways we can be able to promote actual healthy choices in life, especially when it comes to food. Where do I get this information from? And remember, at this point, we are in a very peculiar state because we have Gen Zs, we have baby boomers, we have millennials, we have Generation Y almost. So where do all these people get this information or this kind of communication that helps them select the healthy food choices or dietary needs that they require?
So I think the first influence always when it comes to food is the cultural and home setup. So at the very basic and family and household level, I believe each of us have the responsibility, whether we are parents, whether we are siblings, aunties, to be able to positively influence the people in our households. We have some cultural practices based on our culture that haven't been so beneficial. For example, in some households, there's particular parts of the chicken that are designated to the man, or there's a particular time that maybe everyone eats and then the lady or the woman is the last one. So I think the culture and how we eat begins at home. So if we want to influence healthy eating and better nutritional choices, we need to begin from a household level. So this nutritional communication and health communication, I think I'd start with the household. Number one, let at the household level the mothers just choose better options for their children. The second level to that is institutions. This can be schools, this can be churches, this can be any community institution that exists. These communities, institutions and gatherings can also partake in influencing what the general population is eating. So for example, during a church meeting, right, instead of just serving porridge alone, they can serve porridge that is enriched and that is more nutritious. Apart from that, the schools that our children go to, right, they have the mandate and responsibility of ensuring that the food that the children are eating is nutritionally complete. And at that level, government also plays a part, that government can actually put in place policies that mandate these institutions to actually provide food that is nutritious to kids. An example I'd give is, for example, in Nigeria, I understand that the bread that they eat must be fortified with cassava flour, which is an abundant crop in their industry, and it's a commonly consumed food. So at that particular level, our government can play a role by ensuring that these institutions that provide food to the public actually provide nutritious food through fortification programs that are mandatory. And that makes it easier for industry also to comply, to make sure that the food that we are putting out there, number one, is as nutritionally complete as it can be. We're using processing methods that are sustainable and that help preserve as much nutrient as possible, even as we
are looking at and ensuring that the food is safe at the end of the day. So I think 3 tiers to it. At a household level, there is so much control about what you actually put in the plate of your child or put in your own plate as an adult. At a secondary level, there's institutions that we eat in. This can be hotels, this can be schools. They also play a role in terms of the food choices that they are able to avail to us. At the third level, we have the government and the policies it can implement to ensure that these institutions and also people are given guidelines on how to operate that can ensure that their well-being is actually taken care of.
All right, that is quite conclusive. Jacinta, you have anything else to add?
Yeah, what I could add is that also it's our personal responsibility. You realize in most cases, if I buy something, I will consume fast or all the instructions are written, but my culture or somebody will think, let me consume fast, or I ask my neighbor, how do I use this? And it's already written. So let us have the culture of reading labels. With that, we are going also to avoid some things like, if I am allergic to something, I haven't read the label, and it's well written on the label. If anything happens, and I start complaining about I took this and I got this allergic reaction, the thing will be, did you really read the label? I didn't read the label. Did you open some juice, you didn't refrigerate, you kept it, mold grew, and then you complain, I found some moldy substance in my juice. Did you read the label that after opening you're supposed to refrigerate? So let us also have the culture of reading labels. Get to know what you're eating. If I have a packet of juice, let me read. If I have a packet of any product that I'm buying in the market, read and get to know the ingredients. What is in this? Today we were given some juices when we came in. Did we read the label and get to know what is in there? Or we just took? So let us also take it as a personal responsibility. We say that food safety is my responsibility. Thank you.
I think I wanted to add to what she said. She's given 3 levels, but there is another level that I'm going to add. I think 2 of them. And before I add those 2 levels, this is the reason why I want to add them. That if we are all able to think of everything in a system way, the system thinking approach, then we will have everybody doing anything talking about food safety. Here, because I come from political side, politicians are very influential people. And every Friday, they have to go to the village, and they will have to attend 5 to 10 funerals. Can you imagine if these super influencers could go and talk about food safety? And you have a role to play, like I said. You have to get your member of parliament to get to understand these things. And how do you make him understand these things is by, making it your responsibility and obligation. If you can access him like I can access my member of parliament, I will try to advocate for, him going and speaking about these things when he goes to the village. And once this person speaks about these issues in the village, then, the villagers and the people in the rural areas will start talking about them. So I think for me, that's another level that we'll look at. Another level will be the chiefs and the village elders. These people are empowered. If they are empowered to speak about food safety, then, it will help, because wherever they are going to the barazas, they will have to talk about these things. But how can they talk about these things? It is unless they are thinking in a system way that if there is water, they are going to talk about water springs, they can link that directly to food safety. So that way, then we get the information flowing from the top to bottom, and then from bottom to up. I think that's what I could add.
Thank you for that. Actually, the last question of today's panel. How do we then communicate to the vulnerable people or the marginalized people who don't always have access to these kinds of things? They probably don't have a social media presence, so they don't have social media ads, social media outreach, or influencers, or they probably don't own a smartphone or a very huge TV with possibly something like DSTV, those kinds of things. So how do you talk to this person in this marginalized area and make them care about their food safety and nutrition?
I think in the last panel, people talked about, the radio stations, the vernacular radio stations. You will be surprised that almost every household, they have access to vernacular radio stations. Number one, because everybody almost has a phone in Kenya, and these phones that have come, even the Mulika Mwizi nowadays has a radio station. My house manager listens to a radio station from their vernacular. I don't understand what she listens to, but I know she listens because I hear people talking in their vernacular. So, taking advantage of this, growth of technology access in Kenya, we can encourage people to share their ideas with the radio stations. But again, I'll go back to what I said. Having these meetings in the rural areas by the elders, the chiefs, and the politicians. But again, the most important part of the vulnerable getting involved is for them to understand that at least they are playing a role. First, they need to understand that at least they are doing something. So once they are doing something, we are not telling them to start off again, but we are telling them to either change the way they are doing things or to enhance how they are doing their things. So I think if we did that way, everybody could be reached with this information that we are talking about.
I think just to add on the aspect of how do we reach the vulnerable communities, I think I want to maybe shed a bit more light on an aspect that is quite complex. We might not have answers to it today, but it's coming from a place of understanding that at this point where we are able to reach at least the farthest corner of this country and of this planet through digital media, through radio stations, through our chiefs, I think the next question becomes, once these people have the information, are they empowered enough to actually take action? I'll give you an example. There's times where we've had reporting and even some of the brands that KEBS or the public health have given a public notice that this particular brands, they have higher levels of aflatoxin than what is recommended. But what actually happens on the ground is that these brands will either have a subsidized cost in the market and people will still buy them, despite the knowledge that this thing has a higher aflatoxin level. So apart from going and having a discussion about the person having information, we also need to look at, are those people empowered enough to be able to actually actualize the information that they have? And this is a broader conversation that, we really need to reinforce our supply chains so that we have enough that people don't feel the need to eat substandard food and less nutritious food just to get their daily nutritional requirements.
Thanks, Molly. Jacinta, the last question.
Let me add something on that.
Yes.
In terms of communication. What is public health doing? I think we can, public health, and we also have agricultural sector in our public field. I think we should also take advantage of that. As one of the panelists says, that we have agricultural offices that are almost dormant. I think the way public health go checking on hotels and the like in terms of compliance, if such could use that kind of training and do sensitization up to the village levels, I think that would really be good. I love the way sensitization was done during the COVID time. Even the children were able to know, don't touch your nose, don't touch your eyes, don't touch your mouth. If we would have such kind of sensitization when it comes to food safety, simple ways that people can understand. If it is children, we even had cartoons of with songs of wash your hands, this is how you wash your hands. If we could have the same on food safety, I think we would be talking of something quite different. We know there is a level of literacy in different people. We could use things like posters, things like visual aids, and I believe we can really reach a lot of people. And people can be sensitized to avoid just to eat and fill their bellies, but also to make sure that it's not about the quantity, but also the food safety. Sensitization even in our schools, in our institutions, to avoid the cases that happened. When we have, hotels went food safety systems and the like as their personal regulations. But have we done that in schools? What can we do? We have many unemployed graduates. Can the government or something happen, or an NGO, take such people and utilize what they know to reach out to many? I'm sure if a campaign is done either in the villages or even at schools, the students, the cooks in the schools will also have the knowledge on how to handle food, and food safety will have gone to a greater level.
Thank you, Jacinta. That was quite comprehensive because you've also preempted the next question. But now we want to come to our close. So what I'm going to ask is one question with your closing remarks. And I'm going to start with you, Shadrach. They say content is king. They say content is everything and messaging is everything. What do you think about that? And share with us your closing remarks.
Content is key. And I was listening to someone yesterday. He said, don't fear. Just start to act. My closing remarks, they closed up my clock. I think we should have seen how many, what is the time that we have taken. But anyway, let me just make this remark. We can talk about food safety if we have food. But we know as a fact that climate change, the clock that is counting that I think was closed up, we have little time left before the extremities of climate change impact our food production. We have little time left for us to have this home of ours livable. So every one of us must know that the existential threat that we have right now is climate change, and we must act on climate change, and we must plug ourselves in the conversation, global conversation on climate change, to push the issues of food safety, nutritional values, and all these other things. So my end point, you are doing something, yes, but we need to do more. We need to start, the 4 R's I was telling someone. Refuse to buy something that you think is causing climate change. If it is necessary, reduce the amount of whatever you're consuming that you think is causing climate change. Reuse anything you think, if I reuse this, is going to help in terms of mitigating climate change. Number 4, the 4th R is to recycle. When you see those people walking around your village collecting bottles to go and recycle to make money, encourage them, because they are helping in terms of addressing the issues of climate change. Because after all, when all those things are done, then we are all contributing something. So we are acting, but let's increase our action or improve our action. Thank you very much. I think I end there.
Thank you, Shadrach. Molly?
I think the question was content
is key, and messaging is as well. What do you think about that, and your closing remarks?
I think in the era of content creation and messaging, I'd say to our audience today, and I think the general population, is do not believe everything that you see. Because now there's a career called content creation. Somebody will sit down in their house, put a picture there showing they're in Dubai, but indeed they're in Kenya. All right? The same thing with food. Somebody will say, I drank this tea, and I look like this, now I look like this. It's a filter. All right? So do not believe everything that you see online. And being this being a panel of communication, I'd want to remind us to, number one, verify the information that you're seeing. Before you share anything, ensure it is verified. Number two, make sure that you check with multiple sources before you share any information, be it nutrition, be it food safety. Make sure you check with multiple sources before you share certain information. Number three, let us educate ourselves first to be able to understand differences between opinions online and factual information. Let us educate ourselves to be able to differentiate between what is an opinion and actually what is a factual or news reporting. And lastly, let us be responsible citizens who are able to actually report when we find or come across cases of misinformation or disinformation. And this can go a long way by making sure that the next person is not duped with the information that you find online. So let's take personal responsibility in ensuring the information we circulate is verified, and also let's take personal initiative to educate ourselves how we can better eat nutritious food and how we can ensure that the food that we are consuming or giving out is also safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. Jacinta?
Thank you very much. I really underscore what my fellow panelists have said. That is great. We need to fact-find everything that we read, everything that goes on. Check it out. It's a fact. Read your labels. Make sure that whatever you're going to share is something that you've verified. Otherwise, you will follow, this came from so-and-so, this came from... Don't just forward. Make sure that you verify what you're reading. If you are in manufacturing, you are doing something, make sure you give the correct information, because information is everything. If you tell me, because now people are so much into health eating, if I take your natural or your herbs that you're preparing the name of organic, this will happen to me, and then it is not happening, then that will not be okay. And we can also fall under the fact of misleading or misguiding people or mislabeling. So let us really fact-find before we put anything or before we believe anything. And what I would say this time is that it is our responsibility to ensure food safety and to ensure that we communicate what is correct and what is a fact based on scientific finding, and we are able to prove that it is okay. So as I close, what I would say is that if it is not safe, it is not food.
Thank you so much, Jacinta. Please come on, guys, give them a round of applause. I think they've done very well. Thank you so much for engaging in this conversation and teaching us a thing or two. I'm very sure by the time we're leaving this place today, we'll remember one thing. You know, just like you've said, if it's not safe, it's not food. We have a responsibility to call out our government, you know, and also the responsibility is ours to ensure that we eat, you know, clean and safe food. So thank you once again and have a lovely evening. Good evening to you as well.